Just a few weeks ago, the Mindseye CEO had said that there was a concerted effort to trash the game ahead of its release and that, they knew there were bot farms posting negative comments and leaving dislikes. And then a couple of days after, we found out that a few executives had left the company, which didn't sound good. But now that the title is out, it is a disaster of epic proportions. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I had said this when I did my initial video on Mindseye. First of all, I didn't even remember that this game was coming out, and I feel like most people didn't either because their social medias were not alive. It's like they weren't getting a lot of comments, negative or positive. They weren't getting a lot of interaction, and it just kind of seemed like this game was flying under the radar. Now, I hadn't been paying attention to this game leading up to release except for after those comments, so I wasn't able to sit there and say without a shadow of a doubt that there wasn't any negative comments, that there wasn't some kind of campaign against this game. But when I did my video, I had went through several YouTube uploads and their X feed, and I couldn't find a lot of comments, positive or negative, never mind overwhelmingly negative, in an attempt to bury this title. And now that it's finally out, well, those comments seem really freaking brain dead because the title is going so poorly, even PlayStation is allowing for refunds. That almost never happens. Companies don't give a fuck if you like or dislike a game. They just care that you made a purchase. And after the, whatever it is, 2 to 3 hour period of time that you've tested the game, they typically do not refund, but PlayStation is, and that's how you know it is really bad. So Mindseye right now is getting the cyberpunk treatment as PlayStation issue refunds, which is so funny because one of the comp titles that I saw for Mindseye was actually Cyberpunk. Of course, one of the major ones was GTA, but it definitely seemed like they were trying to almost have a cyberpunk feeling. It was supposed to be like hyper realistic and there were supposed to be so many different systems and it sounded very adventurous, which is cool, right? I want development studios to be able to, do something that feels a little bit uncomfortable and try something out, even if it doesn't turn out perfect. I am somebody who gives companies a hell of a lot of passes. It's okay if your game is a little bit buggy or glitchy at launch, as long as it doesn't ruin the experience. But that's not the case for Mindseye because it is so buggy and so broken, and there are so many technical problems, and the game, when it's actually running, isn't good. This probably should have never even released. So it says Mindseye is off to a very troubled start, and their experience is reminiscent of what CD Projekt Red experienced with the launch of Cyberpunk 2077, and similar to that time, PlayStation has begun issuing refunds for Mindseye. One thing I'm really wondering with this game is if they knew it was going to release and it wasn't going to go positively, and they decided to go along with it anyway, because there are games like No Man's Sky and like Cyberpunk, which have launched so terribly that everybody talks about it, but then it's sort of a hero story, right? Of how these developers persisted and how they put in so much time and work and effort and how they saved the game. And then people praise them for actually listening to their customers and not abandoning a product. And we already know that for Mindseye, they have a very, very long roadmap that they've already released post-launch to try to say, hey, listen, we're not abandoning this game. I don't know if that will actually happen, if they'll be able to turn things around over the next couple of years, but I do wonder now if there are studios who are willing to risk the initial image of their product because they think eventually it will pay off because they're getting big wave of attention at first, and then when they fix it, they get a big wave of attention. I don't know, maybe it's a tinfoil hat theory. I just don't trust companies these days. Maybe that's all it boils down to. It says Mindseye is developed by Build a Rocket Boy and published by IO Interactive. The single-player, narrative-driven action-adventure was released for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC via Steam and Epic on June 10th. So it's only been out for 2 days and it's going terribly. The game is experiencing a bumpy start primarily due to PC performance issues, bugs, and glitches. It's not just PC performance issues. Don't let insider gaming convince you that, oh, if you buy it on console, it runs better. It runs like shit on every platform. That's why I didn't go ahead and like buy it, because sometimes I'll still play really broken, trolly games on the channel just for the laughs. I did not even waste my time with this one. It says, thanks to the gamer, we have now seen 2 examples of PlayStation issuing refunds for Mindseye. The first example comes from the Mindseye subreddit, where a user has posted their conversation with PlayStation support, and in their request for a refund, the user mentioned that the game is advertised on the official PlayStation launch trailer with 60 FPS footage as Pro Enhanced, but that is incorrect. PlayStation acknowledged the problem, stating that they are aware of the issues regarding the optimizations for the game and are currently investigating the issue. In the meantime, they had processed the refund request for the customer, and there are actually quite a few posts over on X now that are basically saying the same thing, and you know that it is really bad. Now, I think that this game will probably get pulled from a storefront if the developers do not issue very quick patches over the next few days. I know that they have this big roadmap, and I know that they've said that, you know, they're really apologetic that it came out and was pretty broken. But your apologies don't mean anything if I wasted my hard-earned money on a pile of trash, and that's how most people feel. And I don't even know if this game could ever make back its money at this point, because we've heard that it had a larger budget. I don't know where the hell the budget had went, but over on Steam, it's not doing good. Now, of course, we don't have the console player numbers. Maybe they're significantly better, but on Steam right now, it's sitting at 732 players in-game currently, and the all-time peak on release day was 3,302. Which doesn't sound like a smashing success to me, and I'll read the reviews in a minute. They're actually sitting at mixed right now, but they were overwhelmingly negative, and they've kind of been teetering between mixed and negative. There's no way that this is really ever going to get to a positive. But the article says Cyberpunk faced a similar situation to Mindseye, with PlayStation issuing refunds despite its strict policy. However, the game hasn't been delisted from the platform yet. It could be, though. I would highly recommend you do not buy this, at least right now. It is not worth your money. And the devs had apologized for the performance challenges and announced major changes in a new hotfix. The build-up to Mindseye featured conversations about the game's reported bugs and glitches, and ultimately the full launch confirmed many of these fears. It says, though, the X page received a hefty news post on June 11th clarifying the game's position. Now, I think that it's cool that they're trying to put in the effort, but this game never should have released in this state. Again, I can excuse a few small technical problems, but this game is near unplayable, and especially unplayable on, from what I've seen, PC. Nobody's had a good time on PC. And looking at the user reviews, there are just tons of product refundeds. There are people who received the product for free who are rating it negatively, and there are quite a few recommendeds or positives, but even those say it needs a hell of a lot of work, which in my opinion is crazy. I could never give a game a recommended, even if the combat is fun or aesthetically it's pleasing, if it runs like trash. But taking a peek at some of these, product refunded. One day Mindseye may become Mindseye 2077. Today, however, all things considered, is not that day. We already knew about some optimization issues, bugs, and AI problems, so put that aside for a moment. The story feels uninspired. The voice actors feel like they were sleepy when recording their dialogues. The graphics do look stunning, and the cutscenes are like watching a movie. However, skipping them can be an issue, and there's some real issues with checkpoints and saving. The graphics are good, city building and architecture looks futuristic enough, however the world itself feels dull and lifeless and boring. Now, if this was a AA title with a $50 price tag or an early access $30 to $40 price tag, things could be different, but they priced it at $60, and at that price, it is a hard pass. Here's another. I'm not one to write reviews. These people with good reviews have not finished the game yet. Don't trust any review that is an hour and a half in. Once you beat the game, you have to start a new save. Free mode, which is unlocked in the middle of the game, is the most laughable, cruel joke of anything I've ever experienced, and basically, you look like a crackhead with no customization. They're saying that some of the pros are the career is really good. Graphically, it looks good. The world is amazing. Vehicle wise, they like their designs. The shooting feels fine, but the cons are no melee or explosives whatsoever, which is absolutely insane, by the way. Even though in a game like this, I wouldn't really go for melee, I still want to be able to like pick up a bat or a wrench, or if there's some kind of like katana, right? I think that those are really cool additions, even if it's not the primary like form of gameplay. The game is super glitchy and unpolished. It's insane. The optimization is poor. The depth of field effects sucks. So, as you can see, most of these are pretty negative and just saying save your money. And that's what I would recommend at this point in time. Maybe in a couple of weeks, they'll have patched it up and it will look like a much more positive situation. But at this point in time, you know it's really, really bad when PlayStation is allowing for refunds past the refund window. So I'll be keeping my eye on this. I wonder if the CEO will say that you're all bots for criticizing the game and saying it sucks, but it looks like something is going to have to change or this game's going to be delisted from storefronts. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next one really soon.